What's up, y'all? It's Terrence Barker, and I got something to say.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
So when you look at that video, you see the president making a nationalist comment. And in some sense, you're going to have people sit here and say, hey, that's not racist, that's a nationalist comment. He was attacking a nation. Okay, yeah, that has some validity to it. But then also you have other people sitting here and saying, hey, that was a prejudice comment. Why? Because Mexico's not sending anyone, and he was prejudging a group of people based upon their nationality. And that has some validity to it, because you're prejudging people, thinking that's why they're coming here. So that's definitely a prejudice. But that made me actually do some thinking, and then made me want to attack another subject on this channel. And I'm just using this to highlight some nationalist views that America has. So we're going to attack nationalism today, and we're going to talk about it and how it has some effects upon the American ideal. So let's get to it. So before we start off and learn what nationalism is, first we got to understand the difference between a nation and a country. Now we're going to break things down in this video, but to keep things simple, a country deals with land, while a nation deals with culture. Here's a basic list of the difference between a nation and a country. What is a nation? A nation is a large body of people united by a common origin, history, culture, or language, inhabited at a particular territory, versus a country, an area of land that is controlled by its own government. When referring to a nation, it is mainly referred to a group of people. When referring to a country, it is referring to a territory. When it comes to a nation, it is cultural as well as political, versus a country. A country is political and geographical. One is an abstract concept, one is a concrete concept. So what does that all mean? So what it means is that nationality and country are two separate things. Prime example, you could be of British nationality, but you can't be of English nationality. Well, according to the UK on how it describes its nationality, there are 6 different types of nationality. Others like being Irish, Welsh, or etc. British is being the most common, but you get the picture. A nationality is not the country you're from, but it's the nation who you belong to. There are nations sometimes within a country. So how does that deal with the United States? Well, it's simple. We're a country. We're not a nation. A country is something totally different from a nation. So what you're telling me is America is not a nation? Yep, telling you that America is not a nation. The problem is when we refer to the United States of America, we just try to say it short and sweet by saying America. But guess what? There are other Americas too. We have North America, Central America, South America. There's a lot of Americas. So basically, we are a country of nations. We have multiple different people from different nationalities within inside our country. So is there any proof of concept to my point? And yes, there is. We're going to look at 3 of them. One, we're going to look at the United States Constitution. We're going to look at how the founding fathers and other people of that time viewed themselves as citizens. Then we're going to look at how the U.S. came into the United Nations and how the United Nations viewed us as a country. Now, is there a trove of data behind these concepts? Yes, there is, but I think these are 3 good points that actually proves this proof of concept on how we were founded as a country, but at the same time, in many different ways, we do get the concept of nation and country confused, because there's a trove of data that can make this concept very confusing. So let's get to it. Let's break it down. Let's simplify this stuff. And if you want to do your own research, you can do your own research at a later time. I actually honor that, but let's get to it right now. Boom. So when it comes to the Constitution, the word nation or nations only appears twice within the Constitution, and it's not when it's talking about itself. One part of it is talking about how Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. The other one is to define and punish piracy and felons committed on high seas, an offense against the law of nations. When you look at the Constitution, the United States does not refer to itself as a nation, but it does refer to nations within it or outside of it. Which brings me to my next point on how people in many different states within the United States used to refer to themselves as such things like Virginians or North Carolinians, and also used to have their own form of currency because there wasn't a federal currency that was used at that time during that day. Then to my third and final point, the United States originally had countered Celine's proposal with a request to allow all 50 American states into the United Nations, but it was later dropped because it was too confusing. So what does that mean? We were never viewed as a nation. We were always viewed as a collective group of states. Simple, right? Yeah, it's on a passport and everything like that, but that's to stop causing confusion with everybody else. We're a collective group of states. That's what we are. That's why we are called the United States of America. It's in the name, for God's sake. So now let's get to what is a nationalist. So now that we know the difference between a nation and a country, some people still might be asking, well, what about the Pledge of Allegiance, Terrence? Well, when it comes down to the Pledge of Allegiance was written like well over 100 years after this country was founded. But also, side note, it was written by this dude right here. And little did you know, he was a nationalist, socialist, Christian. So he didn't really reflect American values, but it had became largely well known throughout the U.S. So that whole one nation under God thing, when you really look at it, it is a nationalist, socialist view. Like as you say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, that's nationalist view, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So that's a socialist view. When you say liberty and justice for all. Now, I don't got no problem with some of the liberty and justice for all. I'm actually kind of like backing on that. But it was actually written by a nationalist socialist. So some people, if you really demonize socialism, might want to look into that, because you might not be about that life like that. And then also, we're not a Christian nation. We never was, never have been. The founding fathers were fleeing that. So once again, we have no religion. We might have some things that were taken out of Christianity that we put in it, but we also have a lot of things that were taken from multiple different cultures, multiple different nations within our law system. So that Pledge of Allegiance is not actually law, just something that we say, and it's not really about the values of Americanism or the United States of America. So now that we know what that is, let's start talking about what nationalism is. Let's put those definitions up real quick. Nationalism, identification with one's own nation and support for its interests, especially to the exclusion or detriment of the interests of other nations. Nationalism, as defined by Webster's Dictionary, a sense of national consciousness, exalting one nation above all others and placing primary emphasis on promotion of its culture and interests, as opposed to those of other nations or supranational groups. A nationalist movement or government. So you gotta basically cut out others. There are definitely some pros and cons to this nationalist mess. One, it has a way of bringing people together, but also it has a way of dividing people. It has a way of bringing people together because those who fit the ideal of what a nation is, they're within the club. But those who don't fit the bill, what our ideal of that nation is, they're out of the loop. And when it comes to America, it's normally about being a white nation. That is the problem. So let's get into that. All right. A lot of our bigotries in this country has to deal with a lot of people not looking like or having what we would consider British white culture or European white culture in general. So when Trump says remarks like this,
I think Islam hates us.
or a politician says remarks like this,
you have criticized Governor Bush for speaking Spanish on the campaign trail. You said, quote, he should really set an example by speaking English in the United States. What's wrong with speaking Spanish?
Well, I think it's wonderful and all, but I did it a little bit half-heartedly, but I do mean it to a large extent. We have a country where to assimilate, you have to speak English. And I think that where he was and the way it came out didn't sound right to me. We have to have assimilation. To have a country, we have to have assimilation. I'm not the first one to say this, Dana. We've had many people over the years, for many, many years, saying the same thing. This is a country where we speak English.
or when we set up schools or jobs and attack things like this.
Good afternoon, I'm Eric Paulson. Thank you for joining us today. We begin with an issue that has caused plenty of outrage and controversy on social media. A family of a Christ the King middle school student in Terrytown claims their daughter was sent home from school because of her hairstyle. It's apparently school policy for students to have only natural hair, and this student had extensions.
And yes, in almost every political election, we have this topic.
Because these people drive me insane. They always have the same incredibly stupid arguments. Just, immigrants, they come here, they come to our country, they steal our jobs. Do they? Do they steal our jobs? Is that how it works? Does someone in HR have like a job posting and they roll in on Monday morning? Oh, Raul's already at the desk. Raul, I stole their job. Oh, goddamn.
Then we go around and gaslight things like this.
I'll tell you what she faces danger, where she faces danger. It's being on the street in any American ghetto where the black-on-black crime is a bigger threat and a bigger problem in the black community than the police use of force.
So by now, you're probably getting hip to my point. We attack everybody. Everybody that is not hip to these white European values. We attack the blacks in our community. We attack Hispanics and Mexicans and people from foreign nations. We attack China. We attack Muslims and different religions. We attack it all except European white nations. Ain't that something? So when you have something like people saying that this is racist, well, basically it's because everybody that is non-white is excluded out of the equation when it comes down to it. So it's kind of like the back door to racism, white nationalism, that is. So in many ways, we got to start chilling up on this white nationalism stuff and all these other white national things that we try to implement within our country. We're a country of many different nations, different backgrounds, races, creeds, and colors. We need to stop gaslighting all these other problems, because if you really want to be real, all those problems was gaslit. Every last one of them. When it comes down to it, Mexicans ain't stealing a job. It's your employer that's exploiting them. You know what I'm saying? He's giving it up. Those people are being exploited. Why? For their labor. They're not stealing a job. Jobs can only be given away. So now if you also want to attack black on black crime, look, check this out. Let's put out something that's a little bit of a number. Homicide is 75% on average domestic. There's no real such thing as black on black crime. Whites, blacks, Mexicans, and everybody kill each other at the same rate. You kill your own. You know what I mean? Which is why that happens. You having an issue or beef with your cousin, your friend, your family member, it's taken a little bit more personal. When it comes to a couple of those other issues that we went over, like jobs and hair, how you gonna sit here and tell me that this is not professional? I've seen plenty of people with extensions, plenty of people with different fades, afros, or curly hair, or whatever. They could actually have that look professional on a job. But since, we want to try to keep this European-like look, we discriminate against other folks. So what did we learn in this video? Well, one, we learned that America is not a nation, it's a country. Two, when it comes to this white nationalism, we are sitting here plaguing our country with it. It is in all our politics, in our way of life. It's in our jobs, our politics, everything. That's why a lot of people are fighting for today. Equality, still to this day. Why? Because America still hasn't got over this white national view of what it's supposed to be. Another thing that we learned is that, we had some more questions, like, man, how did we get here? Because this channel is called Knowing Your Roots, so you know what to cut off and what to keep. So I got to go into another video about that. So it's going to be like a two-part series on this video topic, because I do firmly believe that by knowing our roots, we can know what to cut off, what to keep. We just got to know the history, right? All right, y'all, my name is Terrence Barker, and I'm out. There has been over 8 different genocides in the world. We all know about the Jews, but we don't talk about how the Colombians, the Cambodians, the Native Americans, the Bosnians, and etc. All of them had evolved around nationalistic views. So if we want to sit here and say never forget, maybe we should forget what nationalism had done to these people. The bodies are being stacked.
You know what a globalist is? A globalist is a person that wants the globe to do well, frankly, not caring about our country so much. And you know what? We can't have that. They have a word. It sort of became old-fashioned. It's called a nationalist. And I say, really, we're not supposed to use that word. You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist.